23rd, RSU 14 Withdrawal Committee meeting. Call the meeting to order. First order of business is to accept the minutes from the December 9th meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Teresa, seconded by Joe. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Teresa, yes. Rolf, yes. Motion is carried. New business. Before we get into new business, I just wanted to make a couple of comments to correct some things and make sure that everybody's kind of working from the same ballpark. First thing I want to do is say that through this whole issue of getting the withdrawal agreement squared around, Chris Howell has been a big help and has really helped whenever he can as far as facilitating things and being able to get people to work with us and things like that. So that really helped things go a lot smoother than they may have been. But in the RSU meeting the other night, there was some discussion on how, not sure exactly how it was said, but essentially that we drag things out because of Corona or whatever, starting this year, so that's what's caused us to get a little bit behind on where we are. I just wanted to kind of read some timeline here on when things happened, starting from January 20th, when we submitted, the RSU Withdrawal Committee submitted our proposal to the RSU 14. This was kind of the last iteration. On February 11th, there was a meeting between the Raymond Withdrawal Committee and representatives from the RSU 14 to discuss the withdrawal agreement. On March 18th, we received a new counterproposal from the RSU 14 indicating that it was subject to change after further consideration as well as review by the RSU 14 committee. On April 29th, we still had not heard back, so Ian got a hold of them and asked for clarification requests from the RSU 14 regarding status and further changes to the counter proposal. The response from the RSU 14 was that the RSU 14 committee had not recommended any further changes. Then on June 5th, that proposal was shared with the RSU 14, the full board, or it was made available to the full board. We don't know how and who they distributed it to. On June 23rd, we received notice from the RSU that the RSU board would vote on the withdrawal agreement in July. On June 30th, a draft of the withdrawal agreement was shared with the DOE. On July 1st, we received initial feedback on the withdrawal agreement received from the DOE. On July 15th, the RSU board met and approved the withdrawal agreement, and that gets us to tonight, where we are looking at the agreement and giving our agreement on there. So some statements were made that, they only saw it that night and they thought it was a little unfair for them to have to review it and do it in one night, but in truth, they had it from April 29th. So where that statement was coming from, I do not know, unless their committee did not share it with their full board, but we have no control over that. So those are the facts, and we're now at the point to be able to go forward with this. So first order of business, one of the big things that had been being worked on was Marshall and the people that he was working with on getting a draft budget pulled together. So we'll have Marshall kind of go through what he did there, who he worked with, and what his numbers show.
Okay, can everybody hear me, please?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I hope that all of you have received the budget packages I sent out a couple days ago, and it's in the agenda package for tonight. I want to take a few minutes and go through that, but first I just want to say that this is meant to be a high-level executive summary. The documents that I used totaled out to be in excess of 110 pages. It would be very difficult to go through 110 pages of Excel in a meeting like this. So this is what I call as an executive summary. I have reduced the budget into several major points, which I want to discuss quickly now, and hopefully you all have a copy. The biggest impact to Raymond's budget going forward would be the cost for secondary education. It would be reduced from what I estimated to be around $17,000 per student to the tuition rate of $11,500, which is an estimate of this year's $10,007 plus 4% for next year, plus 4% going into 21-22. There's a differential for the students that are not at Wyndham. We have 8 this year. We normally send 25,000 to the RSU, and they normally send us back 15. So I've included 10,000 for that figure also. Next year's student count show that we will continue to have 8 students out of the RSU in secondary. That obviously can change. And we'll get into the details on that on page 2, but I'd like to get through page 1 first, if I might. I've added $140,000 to the numbers for a school resource officer. I realize there is national political issues both for and against these. I would feel comfortable, and I think some of the administration at the RSU, or at Raymond, would feel comfortable with a resource officer. So it is added in the budget. Whether they take it or not is another issue. The other thing I've added in is $180,000 for nutrition. This is to provide free breakfast and lunch for all K-4 students. I think this is important for a lot of reasons. I learned early on in my teaching career that hungry kids can't learn. So the more we can feed their nutrition needs, the more we can feed their educational needs. The reason I got $180,000 is I took 240 students, multiplied it by $4.50 per student for 177 days, and then rounded down a little bit for absences and things like I don't like spaghetti and stuff like that. So that's where the $180,000 comes from. That is a gross number. It will not include free and reduced that we could use to buck up against this at some later point. Point number 3, the budgets as submitted by Raymond administration maintain full effect. All services and programs currently in existence carry forward. They have been adjusted upward to account for the change in time, 3.5% per year. So all RES and Jordan Small School budgets as submitted by Raymond administration have not been touched. Subtractions have been made from the RSU 14 version 9 maintenance and facilities accounts to eliminate those non-recurring costs that I determined with their help to be expended this year, mostly in the area of security. I understand that they are considering putting in airlocks at RES and Jordan Small. I don't think they've started the work yet, but it is scheduled to be done this year. Additions to staff have been partially carried to the pre-withdrawal expenses, which we'll review later, and increased in the budget to reflect those positions that you may be hired after 7/1/21. The board, I assumed the school board would have 5 seats. I built in stipends and insurances based on the 5 seats. Pre-K assumes 20 students, 5 of which would be identified, and 3 staff. Now this is a little bit different. I budgeted for 20 students and 3 staff. I do not assume, nor would I recommend, that the school does 20 full-time pre-K 5 days a week. I think that would be way excessive for both the students and the staff. I'm recommending that they do 10 a.m. and 10 p.m., which gives their staff ratio of roughly 3 to 1. and it's easier on the students. They can do what they wish. I'm not, I'm not responsible for that, but that's the thought plan behind the 20 and the 5 and the 3. And finally, there will be no longer any shared employees. That was made clear to me early on. Additions to the staff budgets have been made to accommodate those shared employees, which I believe there are 2, possibly 3, that may wish to remain in Raymond. If not, the budget is there to support a new employee. But I think those people should be given opportunities first. So that is the major points in building this budget. Most of it has come from RSU version 14 version 9 with some adjustments that I've made. I have been in touch with Raymond administration, and they in essence agree with these thoughts. Any questions on this page? Because some of this won't be covered later. Any questions here?
Marshall, what about, and I'm looking on your, what you have here for major budget points, but I'm also holding up your projected expenditures. What about the superintendent, a special ed director? Do you have that listed out in the projected expenditures, or do you have it back on?
Let's talk about a superintendent, but I really don't want to go any further with personnel issues, okay? The
Okay,
superintendent, we would assume that the superintendent would be hired January 1, 2021.
Where is it at, though, as far as cost goes?
Part of it is in the budget, and part of it is in the anticipated pre-withdrawal.
Okay.
Okay.
Another question, too, is I know pre-K, I'm looking at these numbers that you are coming in under the major budget points as high. Only because I rather go high, because I know pre-K they're getting state funded money some now. Lunch money, same type of thing, might you know what I mean, as far as like free and reduced. And that $140,000 for the school resource officer, 1 or 2?
Direct quote from Kevin Joyce, 1. We buy a car.
Oh, okay, thank you.
That reduces down to 90 to 95,000 on year 2 because we've already bought the car.
Okay,
And I don't know whether I've ever mentioned this before. I have a friend in another school system that is a superintendent there, and he has confirmed that the price is somewhere around 90 to 95,000 per year, year 2 and forward.
okay, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else on this document?
Marshall, I don't know when the appropriate time is, but when I listened to the school board the other night,
I'm sorry to hear that.
most of the phone-in people were teachers and concerned about the contract. What assumptions are you making for the contract?
I assumed that the Raymond administration in their budget carried correctly the salaries and benefits as awarded by the union contracts forward, and I have not touched that. They remain in full effect.
That is part of the separation agreement, is that those contracts remain.
Yes, it is.
Remain intact until they expire.
They said they do expire. One of the persons, I can't remember, somebody said that the one does expire and they will not have a negotiating bargaining power with them once we split.
I would have no control on that. I carried forward a number there. That would be a decision for the new superintendent, whatever they wish to negotiate there. I really can't see anything changing. But
Why
again,
wouldn't they
I
have-
carried forward their numbers on that.
What,
Why,
Joe?
why wouldn't they have negotiating power? They're still a union.
No, they said that and this is some of the things that was frustrating because Attorney Stockmeyer was not giving them accurate information. They said once that we split, they are no longer in part of that bargaining unit anymore. And that their contract, I believe, said is up. It will be up then. So they would have to be negotiating without a bargaining unit on their own. So
Yeah, but the bargaining unit is the union that they're associated with. I can't believe that the union they're associated with is going to say, "Gee, we don't want you." So
That's what they
they're
did say
part
in
of,
that
they're
meeting.
part of either MEA or whatever bargaining unit they're with. What I mean, the statement could be partially correct in that yes, if the union negotiator is in Wyndham, they're not going to negotiate for Raymond. Raymond would have to have its own negotiating team. But it doesn't mean that the union dissolves
Well, no, but that's what,
unless they
Bryce,
vote
and that's why I wanted
unless
you,
they vote to dissolve it.
but that's why I wanted you to hear it. They're saying as of that July 1st, you're no longer part of that bargaining unit anymore, and that they're gonna have to go in on their own and do it. And again, that's why I wanted you guys to listen to that, because there were so many things that should have been answered.
Yeah. So
Can I provide
just yeah,
Yeah. Go
just
ahead,
to
Dan.
clarify, under the withdrawal agreement, it states that the expiration date of the current teacher's contract is August 21st of 2021. And if withdrawal were to be approved in November, they would not have the authority to bargain for Raymond employees after the effect, for any collective bargaining agreement that takes effect after the effective date of withdrawal, which would be July 1st of 2021. So during that time period between the vote and the expiration of the collective bargaining agreement in August of 2021, the new Raymond School Committee, if withdrawal were to be approved in November, would be responsible for negotiating a new collective bargaining agreement that would apply effective as of August 22nd of 2021. So there would continue to be a collective bargaining relationship. Raymond would be required to negotiate with the union over a new collective bargaining agreement for Raymond school employees.
And until a new bargaining agreement was settled on by Raymond and the MTA, the old bargaining agreement would stay in effect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There would be full recognition. The terms and conditions of employment would remain in effect until there's a new collective bargaining agreement.
So there was some misinformation out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I like our council, I like our advisor, I like this on our side a lot better.
Yeah.
Yes, they were not, the school board is not getting accurate information. They really aren't.
Well, it's reminiscent of things that I've talked about in the past as far as helplines and things like that. They answer the question specifically that is asked, but they go no further.
Right.
So the question that was asked was, would they be able to negotiate for them? The answer is no, they would not. But they didn't answer it further, which is, but the agreement the terms stay in effect until the new agreement is reached. So technically, yes, the answer was correct.
Oh, but they didn't say that it stayed in effect until a new one was
But
made.
the spirit of the question is not what was answered.
Right, right. Look at Joe.
Just shaking my head.
Okay, Marshall, continue.
Okay, hold on for a second, please. Bill,
Well-
can you bring up page 2 on the PDF? I'm going to try to have the tech guys bring up page 2, which is the analysis of secondary. But I think you all have that anyway. Hopefully you do. Joe, can you nod your head yes?
I have it somewhere on my computer. Yes.
Uh-oh.
Which one is it? I got 4 of them here.
Well, just let me skim it through. We had the student count for secondary for a couple years, and we have 190 students that just for the past year, 1920. Okay. We have 186 going into 2021, seniors, 2021, senior high school 20 and 21. And that drops to 182. Currently, we have 8 out of district. That will drop to 2 in that period. I don't know why. Maybe a family graduated or something. So, but anyway, it drops down to 2. So that's the reason for the decrease in the number of students. The state tuition rate, which is what I believe the agreement calls for, is $10,007 plus 4% per year, brings us up to roughly $11,598 per high school student. Take that, do the math, you come up with $2.1 million roughly. Now I've also added in 18% of the identified population, and according to Chris Howell, it's an additional $10,000 per student to carry that special ed category. So I've added that in, so when you add those numbers up, you come up with 2.438 million, which I think is a little bit different than Mark's numbers, which we'll get to in Exhibit F. It's rounding, and I just lost everything. Can you hear me, Rolf? Okay, there we go. If we did not withdraw, I estimate the secondary costs to be in the area of $3.2 million for this period. So the savings roughly $800,000.
What is the total student count, Marshall?
This year it was 601.
Okay.
I
includes
have
kindergarten through high school?
K through 12, yes. I understand that there are 50 coming in and 46 or something going out. How many did we graduate this year? 46? I think it's 46.
Okay.
So that'll go up a little bit. And then there was a dip in one of the years, I forget which one it is. So it went down, and then it'll go down because we'll graduate 6 of the out of district. I think they were North Yarmouth. So we'll be winding up total students in 2021 to 22, 593.
And isn't there a lot of new housing being built right now in Raymond? I drive around, I see all this new construction.
Yeah.
Is there any anticipation that you add any numbers anticipating families moving?
The average class size has been running about 45.
Okay.
I increased K this year to 50 for that reason. And I
Okay.
think we'll see small gains as years go by. But the numbers taking this down to 182 from 186 involves just secondary.
Okay.
We average,
dropped over the last 20 years.
I'm sorry?
I mean, our total student population is actually dropping.
Yes, it is. It is. And there are little blips up and down, but in average, it's 45 per class per year. So any questions on the secondary analysis?
Yeah, what is the students at tuition rate again? You have 24, 22, 182.
We would have 182 at the full tuition rate.
Wait. Oh, sorry. I got it.
Because there would be no more, seniors at
Yeah.
Wyndham High. We'd all be state tuition.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. May I move on?
Yes.
The next document is a document that Mark has helped me produce. This will be going into the package as Exhibit F. If we can take a look at that, this is aligned to the state document requirements, and maybe Mark can take over here for a second and explain that.
I'd be happy to. Um, Marshall did a really nice job, and we'll see his detail, which gives you a little bit more information on the individual issues that you'd be interested in. But what the state requires is to use the cost center format, and that's what's listed here: regular instruction, special ed, career and technical, etc., and requires the exhibit follow that state template in order to become part of our document. So what I did, to the best of my knowledge, and I didn't have all 120 sheets that Marshall had and the detail that he had, I tried to transition all his numbers into the appropriate function so the state would be satisfied. And my earlier version had pre-withdrawal costs, which I was, when I talked with Rolf said, no, that would not be something that, most of those costs would come out of surplus in the year before the actual withdrawal date. So we aligned as best we could with Marshall's costs as well as his with expenditures as well as revenues, and came out essentially the same.
Thank you, Mark. If you take a look at the next page down, which is my budget summary, I've gone into just a hair more detail. I think this aligns better with what our accounting system will look like if we separate. And each one, I've given a justification. For example, $132,000 for pre-K. The Raymond Elementary and Jordan Small remain intact with a 3.5% increase per year. Secondary tuition, so forth and so on. The reason that I believe that Mark's numbers and my numbers are different is that we have handled technology different. He's put it back into where it would go into a building, and CIA would be different. There's a lot of things in CIA, including gifted and talented, and a couple other things. So I broke that out. The RSU 14 version 9 budget does break out CIA. So in essence, we plan on spending $10.8 million in the year 21-22 for Raymond. When I first did a progression of their increases over the last 10 years, they averaged roughly 4%, 4.5%. That would take us to $11.6 million if we do not withdraw. So there's a savings of about $800,000 by withdrawing. Any questions on that document?
People are going to say we're doing this for only 800,000, but it's not just 800,000.
No, it's not.
It's literally everything that you just put into this.
Right.
That not in there now.
Right.
That's bonuses. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
It's also getting local control back.
That's the big one. That's the big one.
Yeah.
We get our own board. We get to say how that school's run.
And, and Raymond will continue to face 4 to 5% increases every year because our property values are going up, our Wyndham's are going down.
Right.
We're catching up to Wyndham in valuation, and we're a lot smaller town.
Okay.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine that is watching the migration of new housing from Westbrook to Wyndham, and there's a tremendous impact in school attendance in Westbrook, which shows a higher need. There are a lot of immigrants coming in, I understand, and that's moving towards Wyndham. So I think in a few years, their school population might be quite a bit higher than it is now. And I think that's one of the reasons they're looking at building that middle school over there.
That is, I know people the other night had questions and comments regarding, Title I, and I think we have to see what students we have here.
Right.
But I wish people would look at now what we are offering and what we were bringing into it. And another really strong possibility is that new middle school in Wyndham is to me is a threat, just because who's to say in order for them to save money, they closed down Jordan Small. They've tried it before. It's been mentioned after that, a couple years after that. And then the kids would have to go down, and then we do have to pay for that school because kids are going to be forced to attend that new middle school. So that is a threat.
To me, that makes logical sense from the state standpoint. They're not going to be paying for a school that's half empty when they're building a new one.
And then they're going to start looking at as a board to say, hey, we got to cut costs somewhere. We got to have schools up here. Let's close this. Let's bring them down. I know that they factor in Raymond kids into that school, but they're going to have to when they got big bills.
Okay. Okay, if I move on?
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question to clarify?
Yes, go ahead, Marco.
No.
What is CIA?
Curriculum, instruction, and assessment.
Thank you.
Okay. The last document I have is the RSU pre-withdrawal anticipated costs. And this has two columns, and perhaps I shouldn't have done it but this way, but it shows what the costs were on the original merger between the two systems. The next one is dated 6/17/20, which was the date I wrote it. And it shows what I believe will be the expenses that we will incur pre-withdrawal, meaning they will incur after the vote November 4th, but before July 1st, 2021. And this is pretty self-explanatory. Most of it's legal. A good bite of it is in technology, getting the correct technological equipment here and so forth and so on. And there is a contingency. So I'm looking at spending $621,000 pre-withdrawal before 7/1.
For technology?
No, for the whole thing.
Total for withdrawal.
Oh,
Would you
total.
like me to read them out, Joe?
No, I
Okay.
haven't.
Yeah,
Okay.
you've got what the categories there. He's got the insurances, the property liability insurance. He's got legal costs, which includes the deed transfers and all that type of stuff. Auditing services, technology, transportation. That's kind of that's software related for the
Right.
for the transportation and whatnot. Let's see, additions to staff and the contingency. So the reason that it doesn't show up in the operating budget is because those costs would occur prior to July, which means you can't carry those into a budget because they would have had to have been expended in the prior budget.
What assumptions are being made on technology as far as new computer systems and servers and all that good stuff?
I can answer that, Joe, by saying that Kevin and the tech guru at Wyndham came up with a pretty thorough list of what they think Raymond would need to go forward on their own technologically. It's a cumbersome document. I'd be happy to send it to you. I do not have it here, but it
No,
breaks
I
it.
don't think it's something I really want to read.
I don't think so either. But they broke it down into what we need now, what we need later, and so forth and so on. But it's their numbers that are here.
Okay.
Their numbers with Kevin looking at it.
Right.
Right.
As we know, Kevin will look at it and say, that's nice, but here's what we can do.
Well,
Yeah.
they sent us a Chevy and Kevin wants a Cadillac. You know that. So
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. This is kind of a stupid question, but do we get any kind, because to me it sounds like we have to build our whole technology program up. And I mean, technically we've been paying for the technology program through this RSU. Do we get any kind of offset, kickbacks off of that at all, or no?
No, that was one of the questions that we had asked in regards to licenses and things like
I
that.
thought I saw that, yeah. I remember
We
seeing
had
it.
asked whether the licenses could be transferred over, because in effect, we already paid for it.
Right.
The answer that came back was, no, they can't. Now, whether that can still be pursued and, found out to be more, but we have to look at it from from the worst case standpoint that says that, no, they can't, so you've got to recreate some of that beast. If anything that we don't have to do, then we wouldn't do in regards to that. If we can get licenses transferred and whatnot, or part of the license transferred, then that would be the desired method. But to account for it right now, we had to look at it and say, they say you can't, so we'll take them at face value and figure here's what it would cost us. So that way it can't be, the state can't look at it and say, well, you haven't calculated enough in there.
Yep, no, I got it.
Is that correct, Mark?
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's consistent with the language of the agreement.
Okay. I know I saw it,
And
but I kind of keep thinking we paid for it in some way, but is there a way? Yeah, but no, I hear what you're
in
saying.
the past, we have done some negotiating with the provider, depending on who that ultimate would be. If it's Tyler, we've made the argument, okay, we already own this, a percentage of this, 30% of this or whatever. And sometimes we have some success with that approach. So we just have to wait until we're ready to go, and then we'll have to go and sit down with these people.
Okay.
I'd like to go back and address a question that Teresa asked earlier, kind of sideways, but that is additions to staff. There are two categories I considered on additions to staff. Those that would be necessary to hire before July 1st of 2021, and those after. The number you see here of 230 are those costs for the people that would hire before July 1st. And I'd like to just use the superintendent for an example, but I'd like not to go any further with that in a public meeting. Does that clear that up, Teresa?
Yep. No, I know we have to have all those department heads. Just didn't see. I just want to make sure we have it budgeted something for it there, so that's not a surprise later. Okay.
Okay. That includes that's the whole package, employee benefits and et cetera, company cars, everything that the RSU gives them.
Company cars?
Gotcha, you're awake.
Yeah, really.
I'm all set. Unless you have any other questions, I'm all set.
Yeah, I guess, first of all, I want Marshall has put in a Herculean effort on this. I mean,
Yes.
you're seeing this there, but what you're not seeing is everything that goes in the background there. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So big thanks there. But what we need to be thinking about is how best do we put this information together for people to see, because
Right.
obviously they don't want to go through 120 pages of stuff. They want to see what it is. They want to see what some of the premises and whatnot. So I mean, a lot of what he has there is just right on as far as what's going to be needed as far as some of the presentations. But if people can think of other ways that can help, because some people are digital and some people are analog in their reading of things. So what makes perfect sense to us looking at it may not to somebody else. So I think we need to be thinking through how best do we make that so that people can figure out what it really means.
I guess I'd also like to suggest too that we start having a lot more meetings since we're so behind. And
That's item 3.
Yeah. All right. Do you know what? I like Marshall's thing. Nancy Yates used to come to our school board, our select board meetings, and we would have the basics, and then if we had any more detailed information, she'd have her notebook right here. So people looking at this, we don't want to overload them, but we're always also open to give them what Marshall's given us.
You give me, given time, I can answer just about any question down to $100, but
Right.
that's a pile about this high, so.
And maybe because all these Zoom meetings, and we have Marshall, then we have you one night of just, calling questions.
That's
You know?
fine. I'll stay tonight and just wait for questions if they come in, so.
But I mean, as we, when we go into the public meetings
Right.
and whatnot, I mean, obviously the budget is a big side because, people want to know, did you take things that we wanted out of there? Well, I mean, the simple answer is no, we didn't. We actually
No.
added.
We added.
We didn't take anything out. We added things that we didn't have before.
That's right.
So that we're improving programs. We're not detracting from programs. But
Here's a question that keeps coming up. Title I. Everybody's afraid that, the comment keeps coming back, we're going to lose Title I.
Well, you're going to lose some funding, I would think, right, Mark? Because we're a wealthy town. It's not.
That's right. What you need to know is, and Chris was pretty agreeable, we wrote into the withdrawal agreement, because year one, they cut all of Title I off, but he has agreed to continue our share of Title I in the first year, which is a plus. So, and there are a couple other titles, 2 and 4 or whatever, don't get as much. We don't get a lot anyway, because You're right, Joe, we're wealthy. But what we've been getting, he's agreed to allow us to continue to get, which is unusual.
I mean, the other, I would think the other, if you kind of put your hat on sideways and look and squint, to say that, okay, we're going to lose this, we're going to lose that, we're going to, we're not going to be able to do this for the kid, that would presuppose that you have an inefficient special ed director.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't think that if you bring in a superintendent, they're going to bring in an inefficient special ed director. Special ed director is there to help say, okay, here's things that you need and how you're going to do it.
And I think I'm just bringing up, and what I'm going to do for our next meeting is have those list of questions that have been asked at other meetings, so we have answers for them. But that was one that was just asked the other night, again, the Title I. But again, on that Title I, it all depends on the child, too. Every year it's something different.
Okay, so the question would be, any other questions on the budget itself, that, the draft budget? I mean, obviously, that's an attachment to the agreement. The state will look that over, say, yeah, it looks, you covered all the bases and whatnot. But at the end of the day, the school board, when they come in, is going to have to review that, make any changes that they would see, which then has to go through the regular review processes of the budget committee and things like that. So, it's back to reviews the way that it used to be done, which is local review, which is a good thing, because the people that are looking at it are the people that are actually going to be getting the service, their kids and the people they know are the ones getting the services out of it. So it kind of puts some of that review back into what, when the consolidation law was written, the legislature took away and figured that local people didn't need to know what was going on. It didn't matter. So
the current budget for 2021 that Raymond is going to give to RSU 14 is around 11.5 million.
No. No. The impact to Raymond this year was about 10.7, 10.8.
Okay.
But then I factor you've got to add some because we're going to jump a year now.
Yeah, another 3 or 4% next year.
I figured 4.5. Yeah.
What did it go up this year?
4.5.
4.5.
At a time when everybody's out of work.
4.5.
So that's our school board representatives doing their best work.
Exactly.
Okay,
I
I
didn't
got my
say it.
comment then.
Exactly.
Okay, so, as I
So,
said, you know, that's the attachment that will go in to the state with this, with withdrawal separation agreement. So the next item is to,
I'm sorry, Ralph,
Yep.
just to clarify, the document that would go in as Exhibit F would be the document entitled, the one pager entitled Raymond Draft Budget, Exhibit F.
Correct.
I think I would propose changing the word function at the top, under projected expenditures to cost centers, to accurately reflect that these are the cost centers. And then taking out the pre-withdrawal reference, which wouldn't apply to the first year budget. That would be pre-withdrawal costs.
right, I mean, I guess the issue on that was, should there be, you know, it's saying zero, but should there be a note there saying because it was picked up in the practice, being picked up in your municipal budget?
Yeah, but I think that, because that won't be part of the school budget, I think I would just remove that reference.
Yeah. That's fine, yeah, I mean, you know, it's just that we want them to know that, yes, we actually have looked at, you know, pre-withdrawal costs. It's just that we recognize that they're gonna be expended prior to that budget, therefore they wouldn't, they can't be in that budget. They have to be in the prior budget.
Good.
So, I mean, you know, is there any objection to making that title change as Dan suggested?
No.
Okay,
Well, wait a minute, please.
yeah,
You're asking me to change the word function to the words cost center?
Cost centers, plural.
Centers.
Withdrawal.
Consider it done.
okay. So the next item of business is the actual acceptance of the withdrawal separation agreement. And, you know, I guess the question to Joe and Mark and Dan, that we had given them the authority to go in, there was some little minor things to get approved and squared around. Any highlights on anything that got done in there from the last version that we saw?
Sure. Just to summarize the major points, as Mark mentioned, under 15C of the withdrawal agreement, language has been incorporated to provide for an equitable share of funds received under local entitlement and Title 1 through 5. And there's some language that addresses, during the first year after withdrawal, and there's some language there that addresses how that allocation, equitable share allocation will be made. Another additional addition is because the district is applying for school revolving renovation loans for schools in both Raymond and Wyndham. That will not be, the actual expenditure of those funds will not be completed before the effective date of withdrawal. There's been an Exhibit G added that addresses how that will be handled, and with the purpose of the language being to allow the district to move forward with those loans, and if withdrawal is approved, then it would provide the option for assignment, potential assignment of those contracts in the event that the construction is not completed to the new Raymond SAU. All of which I think is clearly in Raymond's interest. There was some clarification additional clarification around buses and vehicles that was incorporated into the transportation language. And I think those were the major points. Mark, or Joe, did you have anything to add?
No, I think it was everything we agreed to, so.
There was a little adjustment in the school nutrition article.
I'm sorry, Mark, I couldn't hear that.
Yeah. They made an adjustment to the school nutrition article too, Dan, right?
Yes, and when this agreement was sent to the DOE for a preliminary review, that was the only comment that came back, was a request for a little bit of additional detail in the school nutrition article. We had language that the new Raymond SAU will provide child nutrition services in compliance with state and federal law at the schools it operates, and following the suggestion for additional language by the DOE, we've added language that the new Raymond SAU will employ a qualified individual to oversee the nutrition program and will continue to provide food service with the kitchen staff at Raymond Elementary School and Jordan Small Middle School.
I think that was it.
Questions, Teresa?
Nope.
Okay, in that case, I'll take a motion to accept the withdrawal separation agreement as presented with the budget.
I'll make that motion.
All right, go ahead. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Joe, in favor, against?
Aye.
Teresa?
Aye.
Rolf, aye. Motion is carried. Okay, next item of business is to discussion on how and when do we want to do presentations, and how do we start getting the word out and getting things answered. First order of business, we'll get a copy of this agreement, the withdrawal agreement now to Sue, so she can put that up on the website so people can see what is in there.
And Ralph, can I interject briefly?
Yeah.
I'd like to get your signatures on it as soon as possible, because the DOE requests a signed agreement be submitted.
I know we can get Joe, Teresa, and me tomorrow. Kate,
Okay.
But we can go into the town. We can go to the town hall and sign that.
Well, let
Okay.
me ask something though. Kate didn't vote on this. Can we turn it in with 3 signatures instead of 4?
We can.
Okay, because she did not vote on it, so she may not even want to sign it, to be honest.
Yeah. As long
Are
as
you gonna have it
there's
at the
majority.
town hall?
Huh?
Will it be at the town hall tomorrow?
It will be at the town hall.
What I will do is send Sue a copy of the agreement as signed by the superintendent. And if it's possible for each of you to, I'll do that first thing tomorrow.
Yep.
And if it's possible for each of you to go into the town hall and sign it, and then she can scan it and send it to me, then that will be.
Actually, the one that signed it was Jenny Cummings. It wasn't the superintendent. It was the
Okay,
chair.
yeah, I'm sorry, the chair.
RSU 14 board. So
Thank
she signed that on the 16th of July. So we'll, Joe, that'll be, it's in, we've got a signing spot at the back door.
A table.
And
All right,
so,
I'll be in tomorrow about 9:30.
Great.
Sue, can you have that out there by then? Is she listening?
There, I am, I just had to figure out how to turn this sucker on.
Oh.
And it probably could be out there by 9:30. However, I'm on vacation tomorrow.
Ooh,
Okay, so if we have it, if we send it to,
If you send it to Rita possibly?
you send it to either that, or I can send it to Dawn, or we can have it sent to Dawn.
Kayla,
Or Kayla.
Yeah, and Kayla, I'm not sure if Kayla's in tomorrow, so,
what if you send it to me? Do you want to send it to me and I can run it up? Or send it to Dawn and then have Dawn find somebody to print it out.
I can call Don tonight and tell him it's coming.
Yeah, 'cause
All right.
all you gotta do is-
Marcia, it would include your new exhibit.
I'm sorry, Mark?
It would include your.
I understand, I'm just trying to see who to send it to.
Great.
probably Don.
Okay,
Send it to Dawn,
Yeah.
because even if he's not there, he can direct it from his
Yeah.
phone.
And I'll call him as soon as we get out of this meeting.
fine, and I'll send it to him tonight.
We will get it signed tomorrow.
Great.
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
So I think
Just
you
one
probably
page.
have
One page.
the agreement as signed by the chair. Is there somebody that I should send that to? Or do you already have it?
That's the one that came through in the emails.
Right.
No, I think Rolf sent that.
Yeah, the one that came, I sent that around to everybody. So actually, we have that. The only one I don't think Sue has that, but so I mean, I've got that, so I can forward that on as well, because there's nothing that's changed here other than that other than that section or that attachment that Marshall's going to send.
And actually, Dan, if you could send it to me when this meeting ends, I could go back to the office and take care of it tonight and have it ready.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll
Okay.
do that right after we get off.
Mm-hmm.
So, great.
Okay, so
As far as like getting word out to everybody, I think that what we need to do is get all of our information, answer the questions that the school board put out the wrong information on, correct that, and get all these together. And I do think we should stick out some kind of a flyer to everybody once we have all the questions that, like a mass mailing, so everybody's getting it. Go ahead.
Can I chime in here just to talk about some of the timelines and the public hearing requirements? I want to send it to the DOE tomorrow because it's important that we get the commissioner's conditional approval of the agreement as soon as possible, so we can begin to meet some of the deadlines that are in the statute. The first deadline is once the commissioner conditionally approves it, there needs to be a public hearing that is presided over by the chair of the RSU 14 board. And that hearing should take place as soon as possible. And it can't take place any earlier than 20 days after the commissioner conditionally approves it. So and it needs to have at least a 10-day notice. So my suggestion is that Mark reach out to the superintendent to talk about scheduling of that. But my hope would be that it would be scheduled likely within, there needs to be a 20-day time gap from when the commissioner approves it. So it's going to depend on when the commissioner approves it. But, and the RSU will need to give at least 10 days public notice of it. Under Executive Order 56, that can be held by remote participation means, which I anticipate probably will be how it makes sense to hold it in the current environment, because we don't know whether more than 50 people might show up. So if Mark can have a discussion with Chris about the logistics of that. But my sense is that the likely time frame for that would be in the August 16th to August 25th time frame, if we can get the commissioner's approval as soon as possible. It probably would be the August 20th to August 30th time frame, most likely.
In fact, in listening to that meeting from the other night, I mean, they're aware of that. Jani's aware of that. So, I think they're on board for doing that as soon as practical. But it certainly makes sense for Mark to have that discussion. And just keep
I'll talk with them tomorrow.
apprised of where things are in the thing. I mean, I guess I don't fully, and I guess in one level I can understand it, but I really, from a practical standpoint, I'm not sure why they have to have a public hearing, because essentially it's, if we're withdrawing, then it's, ultimately our decision. They can't say no. So
I was just gonna ask that, yeah. Why is the RSU?
I think it's an outgrowth. It's like it's kind of like other things. It was an outgrowth of the fact that you had situations where you had more than one town that was in an RSU, so they had to do that so the other towns could have input to see what the impact was going to be on them. They couldn't necessarily stop it, but they at least would know what the impact was going to be on them. I would think that was the logic behind it. I hate to try and apply too much logic to things the legislature does, but
But it's still Raymond that's voting in the end. It's not Wyndham, and that's one of the comments Kate Brick said. Kate says that there's not enough time and they need to get word out and information out to the Wyndham residents. It's not Wyndham that's voting on this.
It's not Wyndham's problem.
Right, exactly. So, and why, again, that wasn't corrected then, I don't know.
Yeah, that's just the way that the statute works. Every withdrawal committee I've worked with has the same question about it, and most often the chair will open the public hearing. There may be some presentation or discussion by the chair, but usually it's turned over to the withdrawal committee to explain the withdrawal agreement and summarize it, and then an opportunity for questions from the public.
So then after that meeting, then technically the RSU board is out of it, because I know that they mentioned that there has to be 2 hearings. One is
Correct.
the RSU.
Right. So after the that public hearing, assuming there's no changes, which there almost never are, we would submit it to the commissioner for final approval, and then that would allow the referendum vote to be scheduled and the necessary timeline for absentee ballots to be prepared and so forth. And then before the referendum, there would then be another public hearing, and that would be overseen by the Board of Selectmen of Raymond. So, but that would be in advance of the actual referendum vote.
So I mean, we have time. So right. So you're thinking as long as we keep moving this thing forward.
We do. We need to get the cooperation from the Department of Education, which has been very cooperative, and so. But I want to make sure that we move it along quickly to meet their expectations.
Well, one more clarification. Department of Education has this right now, correct?
Yeah, but right, exactly. And they have done a preliminary review, so I don't anticipate there's going to be any issues, but it's a matter of getting the commissioner's signature on it and getting the approval letter issued.
Okay.
question on money that we have allocated or appropriated to this committee. I assume, can that not be used to send out information on the withdrawal to Raymond residents?
Sure it can, because that money was allocated by the town. It's not part of the school budget or anything like that.
Right, but is it considered a political mailing?
No, it isn't, if it is dealing in fact, it's an informational thing.
Right.
Yeah, I would
think
recommend
that's
it be
careful, though.
informational, but that's permissible, certainly.
Right.
An informational
You have to be
mailing
careful
about it.
how you word things.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
as long-
no, it would be-
As long as what we're stating is facts, and
Facts.
this is what it is, this is where we were, this is what we are, this is what the proposal is. If they're all verifiable, then it is not opinion, it's not a political piece, it is an informational piece. No different really than some of the, actually less different than say the piece that was sent out by the school for the budget.
Yeah.
That was done with school funds, and that made very liberal use of which towns they recommend, which towns they reference for one part of it, another set of towns for something else, all to make theirs look
Right.
like they're doing something. So I mean, that was, in my opinion, that was more political than fact.
Right.
The facts, yes, you can't dispute that those facts were facts, but they were not consistent through there, which makes it, liars or figures don't lie, but liars figure.
I'm just trying to make sure that we're not allowed to say the RSU Withdrawal Committee recommends withdrawal, and here are the numbers. I'm not sure you can say
I would
that.
put that. Joe, I'll put it on there. I'm Teresa Sadak, and I approve this message. What do you think?
Okay, yeah, that worked.
I don't think we should say the RSU withdrawal says we should. I think we should put the facts down so they can decide. And
At the end, other than this, I think we have a number of different pieces that will be going out, that will be available and going out, because at the end of the day, when we come down before that final vote, the committee is going to make a recommendation.
yes,
Either we are or we're not.
Right.
So at that point, then it is, then you have a vote of the committee that says the committee recommends this action. That is now fact. That's not opinion at that point. That is fact.
the Board of Selectmen can also do that too. Kayla has that. We have the town of Raymond has that center page in the Wyndham Eagle. I think we need to utilize that. That can cover so much information.
I mean, Joe's point is well in that we have to be careful. We want to present the facts. Here's what it is. Here's what it's going to do for you. Now you the voters have to make that ultimate choice. Either you think that it's a good idea, or you think it's not a good idea. That's we're not saying that if we're telling you to go do that. No, we're saying here's
You decide.
the facts. Now you look at it and you, Mr. Voter, Mrs. Voter, make your decision based on that information.
We can put things like frequently asked questions, like how much is it going to cost this year to withdraw? This amount of money. How much are we going to save the first year? Possibly $800,000. We can put all these things that people are asking.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chair, we do have someone on the phone when you're ready.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Grace, are you still there? Grace? So I'll put you on speaker just a second.
Thanks.
Okay, you should be all set, Grace.
Okay. Thanks. This is Grace Levitt. I have a list of some questions and comments. So thanks for at least having a message here, although I don't think it was very well publicized, and that's certainly a comment. I had emailed the withdrawal committee when I saw that this was on the RSU 14 agenda. I did not get any response from any member of the withdrawal committee, and I do not know why. I asked some specific questions there, so they were not very forthcoming. I got no even acknowledgement of receipt of that message. I did hear from the chair of the RSU, but I did not hear from anyone in the withdrawal committee, and I had some questions for you. There has not been any meeting since December that the public had any access to at all, and that's a very long time. It's now mid-July. Certainly I know all about the pandemic, but still, from early December until the pandemic hit in mid-March, there was nothing, no information. I kept checking the website, any type of meeting, nothing forthcoming until now. This is the withdrawal agreement. So no information about it. And I asked about the survey results.
If I can just answer that first part of it.
Ralph,
I specifically did respond to your email and copied everyone.
Ralph, she can't hear you.
Ralph, she can't hear you.
I find it very hard to believe that it won't be biased, whatever you send out, because I do believe that the bias of at least the 3 people here in attendance in this withdrawal committee has been extreme from the very start. I don't know where the 4th committee member is, but if you're saying that you're voting on this, where is her vote? Will it be shown if it's a divided vote or anything like that? It's just a list of questions and comments, and I guess I have to hang up in order for you to respond, and then I'll call again if need be, but at least I was able to call in. Thank you.
Okay, so hopefully she'll hear this response.
Okay, Ralph.
But the email that came through was answered. I specifically responded to that and copied all the people that she copied. So why she did not receive the response, I do not know. I will resend that to her. But the long and short of it was the issues that we were going through were all related to the withdrawal agreement, which were done in executive session. And as I went through the timeline earlier, a lot of the delays were when we were waiting for responses to come back from the RSU. So things that were being discussed inside executive session were not and are not available for release because that's a violation of the executive session rules. And that's, I explained that in the email response I sent to her, as well as it went to, looking at her list, it went to the whole RSU 14 school board. So why she did not get that, I cannot answer that, other than the fact that it could have been some email glitch someplace, I do not know. I'll resend that and see. In regards to the 4th member not being here, she was not able to attend the meeting tonight, but she was invited. She could have come in on Zoom if we had it available at some place, but in order to have, she was and did see all the various iterations of the withdrawal agreement, so she was apprised of that. Whether her vote would have been yes or no on approving that a withdrawal agreement. The withdrawal agreement does not necessarily say that she agrees to withdraw. It says that if we do, that what is in that agreement is what she would be voting on. If that's what the vote would have been tonight.
Just from my standpoint, I never got an email. So I don't know where it was sent to, but I never received one.
Well, and there's no reason for all of us to respond when Rolf is the chair and he's responded. And as far as bias goes, I'm the one that took out the petition. So yeah, I'm pushing for withdrawal. All right. We can go through all this work for now then.
Oh, here we go.
Raymond Town Office.
Anybody else, Sue?
Hold on, Ralph.
Hello? Hello? Is someone there? Hello? May I ask, this is the town office at the meeting. May I ask who's calling? Is this Grace again? Yes, they're actually waiting for you. So are you ready now? Okay, I'll put it back on speaker. ahead, Grace.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the answer. I do understand about executive session. I still think there could have been some updates as to where you were in the process. Somewhere, something posted on the website. There's been nothing. I did not get the email. I would appreciate it if you resend it. That would be great. It did go to all of you, to the emails, addresses that are on the website. I don't know if there's an inaccurate email address there, but I can certainly resend it as well to the member of the committee that didn't get it. And I don't know if you answered my question about the survey results. I was trying to manipulate the meeting so that I could hear you, and et cetera. But if you have a response to that, are those results posted somewhere? You did a survey, I believe, back in, maybe it was April. Might have been a little bit later, I'm not sure. But I would love to see those results. Thank you.
Teresa, did you reach out to see if there's any update on the survey results?
I did not. I can send her a text right now. Two things is, one, I do remember seeing that letter. Two is, you, as far as not having any meetings, every select board meeting you have mentioned, and because that's one of the reasons when I was a select board chair, I wanted something on there for RSU withdrawal meetings. And every meeting, it was pretty much the same update, but it's in our meeting minutes, it's in everything. And we haven't had the contract since, what did you say, April 29th? So maybe she could ask the RSU why they held on to it as to what's going on. But I would send her your timeline again as to our updates and what we've been doing, because it's all been an executive session. I'm looking for that letter, but I know I got the letter from Grace. And I got your response too. All right.
Stranger things have happened in emails. So.
All right, I'm sending Caitlin to see where the results are. I know there wasn't very many responses to it. The first
at one point there was only like 10 responses, so
yeah.
And she was going to update us when more came in. But we will, we'll have that information available when we have a public meeting on this, which gets to the next thing, which is when do we want to schedule that, and then how do we want to do it? I mean, Zoom can work to a certain degree, but you may have people that don't have the Zoom technology, so that may, I think we need to look at what are the methods that we have in order to be able to have people's inputs come into the meeting and their questions come out, so that we can get information out there. So, Mark, ideas on that?
Well, it seems, as Dan looks at the timeline, that's going to be probably the earliest we can do it with the commissioner's approval. So we have an approved document. It's going to be toward the end of August. As far as getting information out, talked about an information newsletter or a packet or something like that could be done at any time, but we probably do need the commissioner's approval on that, so we know that we're dealing with a verified document.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I understand what you're saying, but the fact is, do we actually need to have the signed document in order to start letting people know now here's what was in it, because it now would be public information anyway. If there's changes that they want, I don't think they would be of major magnitude, but at least we can start to say, okay, here's what's behind the draft budget, here's what's behind, here's what's the summaries of what's in the withdrawal agreement, so that information starts to get into people's hands.
I think we need to start having informational sessions early September, because the RSU is going to do theirs, public meeting, and then I think we need to follow as soon as possible within the next week or two after that, and probably have 3 or 4 informational sessions. People can call into Zoom and listen. You don't have to have video. You can do a call in. I think we're still limited to 50 people gathering, right? Like if we went to the gym, I think it's still 50 people at most.
Right.
Well, here's another thing, we can run information on our town page too, on TV. You know what I mean? And run, again, put one paper up at a time and put, again, frequently asked questions.
I mean, we're, if we're having a meeting, it's gonna be live streamed as well. So even if it's not, even if they can't come in on Zoom, they can watch it on the streaming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Yep.
But I think 3 or 4 sessions is going to be what's needed.
Mm-hmm.
And you might get the same questions over and over again, but it's okay.
Great. On July 15th at 8:18 p.m. is when Rolf sent that letter back. And it went to 8 of the school board members, and it actually went to me and to Grace. So
I've never seen it.
yeah, and it went to Kate Levier too. So it went to all the school board members. You forgot Joe Rolf, but it did July 15th, 8:18 p.m. It was sent to Grace Levitt, the response.
So we need to, there's a few action items that we need to do as far as starting to get information pulled together. Marshall's got kind of the summary sheets on the budget, so that's, that side of it's in good shape. But who wants, Teresa, you've already started working on some bullet item things.
Yep. I can keep working on those.
Joe, you've in the past you've sat on all these kinds of different things there, as far as what kind of works and what doesn't work, as far as putting together presentations and whatnot. Can you kind of take a rough cut at some of that stuff?
Yeah, if Teresa will send me what her bullet points are.
Yep.
I can try and put a PowerPoint together.
I just started them, and I think there's like 3 different things, 3 different sessions, and I mentioned this to Rolf just kind of off the cuff, where one of them is, the stuff that was being said for the board, what are the questions, and then what are the benefits of us withdrawing? You know what I mean? So I'll put them together and send them to you.
And then Mark,
I would hope we could put the signed agreement and Marshall's budget numbers on the website.
Those will be on, those we can, Sue, you can take care of getting that put up there, correct?
Correct.
Sue?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you also let us know, Sue, by an email, just so we have it in writing, is when Kayla's newspaper articles have to go in, because we're going to maybe boot some of the stuff she has if we can confiscate the newspaper.
Yes, as long as you don't waylay my election stuff.
No, I'm okay with that.
And that does lead me, if I may, to a logistical kind of question. When in this process will a referendum question be ready?
We will have it at least 45 days before the vote, so that absentee ballots can be prepared and made available.
And so that I can have the machine programmed so that it can be read and counted.
But I mean, the actual referendum question is already written by the state, isn't that pre-done text as far as what that referendum?
I believe it is. I just don't want to jump the gun when you folks aren't ready to have me send that to the printer.
Yeah.
I'll work with you on that, Sue, to make sure that you have it.
Perfect.
As early as possible to get it to the printer.
Thank you.
Okay. One other.
Joe, Joe and Teresa can include me on that information, I'll be glad to help.
Great.
Cool.
Make suggestions or whatever this is Mark.
Okay.
As you get things developed, just include me on the email.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, you've been through this at other places, so you've seen things that have worked and things that have not worked. And so we're looking at the working ones, not the non-working ones.
Well, and keeping to the facts and not the personal part of it. Yeah.
That's right.
Mark, can you come up with some things that you have seen from other school districts? Things they have put out there?
Yes, I'll go back and look at, quite often, when we've had a public meeting, we have a PowerPoint that kind of summarizes the facts and so forth, and whether or not we want, that's going to be difficult with the current conditions, Zoom and all that. I don't know just exactly how that will work. I'm not tech savvy enough, but
Yeah, you can do a PowerPoint on Zoom. You put up the information and share it, and it shows up on Zoom.
Okay, you might be able to do that.
Well, that's how I did class this year, so I learned how to do it.
Oh,
We're
good.
going to put our stuff together and give it to Joe, and he can put it together.
That sounds good. I like it. He is Zoom savvy.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we have as many informational meetings as possible. I think.
Yeah, I don't think you can have too many because people that can come to one can't come to another or whatever. So, the same information is going to be gone through multiple times, but that's fine too.
That's all right.
Okay, so you guys will work on it. Dan, here's one for you to work on.
Dan's homework.
Is it possible to have nomination papers and things taken out and for a vote to take place for a position that may not exist? In other words, is it possible to have school board seats run for to be voted at that meeting when the referendum comes up? If the referendum passes, now you've already got your school board set. If it doesn't, then it's no harm, no foul, because they can't serve on it has no impact because that position wouldn't exist.
Yeah, I've looked at that issue before, Rolf, and unfortunately not. So,
Right.
we'll the town will have to schedule
Special election.
a special election as soon as possible after the withdrawal vote, if the withdrawal vote passes.
Yeah.
I told him, but he wouldn't listen to me.
Fine, one of those, if you don't, I mean, who knows, things change, but
Ralph likes to be
when you look at it from a practical standpoint,
Exactly.
we're going to have a couple thousand people vote in November, and then you have a special election and you maybe have 50. So now you got 50 people deciding who's on the school board.
Unfortunately, that's the way it works, Ralph.
I'm afraid so.
All right, any other comments, questions?
Marshall, thanks for all the work.
Yeah.
Good
Appreciate
job,
it.
Mark.
There's a bill in the mail. It's going right to Joe.
What we can do, as things start to get pulled together on presentations and whatnot, then we can figure out when to have the first of those meetings. But the next thing is once we know from Dan that it's been approved or whatever from the state, then we know where that next timeline comes in there, and we start working from there.
Yep.
That makes
Right.
sense.
I am.
Yes, it does.
That's good.
All right. Thank you all.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Good to see you.